One of the most important things we can do with your strength and conditioning for cycling is teaching you to be able to produce a power pulse to allow you to propel yourself forward. Now here's the thing. We are in the velodrome here, so we have a wide open field that we're able to do this. You may not have this at home, but what I'm going to show you today is a wall ball toss and explain why that is a better exercise for most of us. And then I'm going to show you a wall ball mini throw, which is going to be more acceptable for those of us who don't have a huge velodrome with a high ceiling, or the gym doesn't allow us to throw. So I do both versions of these depending on where I'm training, but we're going to look at the wall ball toss to help you develop power. Now, there's been an obsession the last couple of years talking about the posterior chain, the posterior chain. This is certainly an important part of our exercise regimen as cyclists, especially being in this position as well as triathletes. But the number one thing that we really need is to learn how to put all of the pieces together to produce proximal stiffness to get movement from the distal point of the body. So proximal stiffness for distal motion. We want a rock solid core to allow movement to happen from the hip and shoulder. Now, as most cyclists do, they go into the gym, they do lots of legs, leg extensions and squats and squats and squats and lunges, maybe a little bit of kettlebell swings if they're a little bit more advanced in their abilities. But really what we also need is upper body. We pedal our bikes with our hands on the handlebar, which allow us to produce tension. Now, along with that, we have to work on our posture to be able to come out of that riding position and instead to be able to keep our diaphragm and pelvis in line, as well as our head stacked over to allow us to get better, more efficient breathing. Now, if you're a professional cyclist who's riding the world tour, is that going to be a little bit different? Will allow a little bit more of a curvature? Absolutely, that's your profession. You're getting paid a couple $100,000, hopefully, a year to do that. For the rest of us humans, we want to try and get ourselves out of that posture and into a more normal human posture. So one of the things we want to look for is thoracic extension. Now, the top 3 pain points for cyclists is lower back, knee, and neck and shoulder. Now, part of the neck and shoulder is because we don't have great movement overhead. So before we get into the movement, I know it's a little bit of a longer intro, make sure that your shoulders are up to it. So here's the exercise itself. Now, we do not need a very heavy ball. 4 kilos is actually a little bit heavier than I like to use. I prefer 3 kilos for myself. We don't need heavy, even if you're the strongest dude or dudette, 3, 4, maximum 5. And that's only if you're deadlifting over 240 kilos for reps with great technique. So the exercise itself, we're going to start off with the feet planted a little bit wider than shoulder width. We're going to sink down and back into our hinge position. Now, when we do this, there's 2 different variations. I'm going to teach you the one that will make it a little bit easier for you. We're going to come down. We're going to get a little bit of a bounce by throwing the ball up. We're going to load the middle of the foot, and we're going to explode up. Now, you'll notice I did not turn to look where the ball is going. As soon as you think about looking where the ball is going to go, you've now changed the direction of the ball and how you're putting the forces down to the ground. So I was trusting Usher very much to tell me if the ball was directly overhead and go up, because he'd go, oh crap, right? So if you're doing this on your own at the gym, you may want to follow the ball with your eyes just to know where it is. If we do, we want to go up and straight back. We're just making sure it's not going to come down on us. That's it. So it's going to look like this. You'll notice, just looking at the ball, I didn't finish the hands as much overhead. So this is why I'm not a big fan of watching the ball, but you can. Now, when we do this, like I said, you have to have high ceilings. So if you have a high ceiling, the goal for this is for the ball to go high and a little bit back the way we're teaching it. We're not looking to go back this way. We don't want a bullet going that way. We want to have a high flyer. This is teaching you to put the force straight down. So when we do this, we want to make sure we're thinking up. Just by listening to it, that wasn't a great throw. It was not as good as the first one, better than the second one. Now, when you do this, it's really important to take 10 to 15 seconds between repetitions. The nervous system needs a little bit of time to rejuvenate itself, and the tissues need a little bit of time to recover from that. We want a strong, explosive pulse. When you do it, 2 to 4 reps, maybe 5, with lots of rest in between your sets. Now, what if you're at a gym and they don't have the wall ball? What can you do? Well, what we have here are these slam balls. So again, we don't really need that heavy. Here's 4 kilo. So if you have a gym that doesn't necessarily have a high ceiling, but they have slam balls. The way that we would adapt this, it's the exact same motion, but instead of thinking as high, we're gonna think about not using the arms at all, or very little. So we're gonna come down, catch, we're gonna throw this way. So you'll notice I didn't use my hands to go up, I used it as a sling to come up over my shoulder. The reason we go up over the shoulder instead of straight is, well, your face is there, and I'm pretty sure we like our faces the way they are. So I really mean that. I've had cyclists where they try and go, and they're ducking their head. We want to go straight up, so it's just a sling. Now, when you do this in the gym, always make sure that you have an open space to do it. I would not recommend doing it by the squat racks. Now, what happens if they don't have 4 kilos or 10 pounds or lighter? Well, we can use a heavier ball, but that changes the impetus of the exercise itself. You're not actually getting more speed or power, you're just getting heavier. It's a different outcome. So is it ideal? No, but sometimes it's better to do something than nothing that's in the same family. So same exact thing. So coming down, you'll notice the ball did not go as far. Now, the reason I did that one last is I have a lot of athletes who are in small gyms where there is a functional training area or green, and they can do 4, but the problem is the ball flies too high, hits the ceiling, the staff come over and say, you can't do that here, you're destroying the facility, which is kind of true. So then we just go to the heavier ball where they can't throw it as high. But it is a completely different exercise. It is not the same. You're not gonna get the same power output as you would at the lighter weights. So this is how you do the wall ball toss and how to modify it for your gym at home. You can do it in your yard. If you're gonna do it with small kids around, please make sure somebody else is there to watch your kids, because they're gonna be curious and think it's a game and that they can catch a wall ball or a slam ball, and that's a really bad idea. On top of that, do not have anybody there to try and catch it. That is a recipe for a back injury as they try and catch it. Have someone there to spot you, make sure it's not gonna hit the neighbor's car or hit somebody, and that's it. So I know this video is a little bit longer, but when we're working with power and we're throwing things, there are a lot of different considerations. The weight, the type of exercise, the type of impetus you're gonna have, as well as how it changes the exercise and how you can change it in order to do it in the facility you have. If you enjoyed this video and found it to be useful, make sure you're hitting subscribe down below, give us a thumbs up. And until next time, remember, train smarter, not harder, because it is all about you.